Hello, this is Dave Hurwitz, Executive Editor at ClassicsToday.com, here to talk about Mendelssohn's Piano Quartets, specifically the second and third, although there are three of them, and they are all wonderful. I mentioned in my discussion of the big Mendelssohn box that was on Hensler that he really was one of the great composers of chamber music. And everybody knows, and most people who are sensible admire his six major string quartets. But he wrote so much more, and it's so tragically neglected. Nothing more so than these piano quartets on Naxos. It would be foolish to try and compare recordings because there are so few of them. This is easily the best of the bunch with the absolutely first-rate Bartholdy Piano Quartet, named after Felix Mendelssohn Bartholdy, which was the last name his father adopted to make the family sound less Jewish. Fat chance of that working, right? Anyway, the bottom line is that Mendelssohn wrote these pieces between the ages of 13 and 16, that is, between 1822 and 25. I mean, it's just inconceivable because the music is so good. He was such a genius at such a young age, and a fully mature genius at such a young age. You know, they were very smart in terms of selection of medium, because piano quartets at that point were very rare. They still are, actually. There aren't a lot of them in the repertoire. There were the couple by Mozart. That was really basically it. Mendelssohn sort of had the field to himself. It was the same way that Beethoven, when he started writing chamber music, did string trios, because he didn't have to challenge Haydn in the string quartet area. So Mendelssohn wrote three piano quartets, and they are his opus 1, 2, and 3. The second is dedicated to his teacher, Selter, you know, the guy who introduced him to Goethe as, I have this great student, he's an uncircumcised Jew. I just love that line, don't you? And the third quartet is dedicated to Goethe himself, who became one of Mendelssohn's best friends. You know, Goethe is always castigated because his musical taste was quite conservative, and he allowed himself to be led by Selter in his musical judgments. But let me tell you, I mean, he had Mendelssohn. That was not such a bad musical judgment. He may not have liked Beethoven too much, but Mendelssohn liked Beethoven. So I admit to think that there's more to this than we usually hear in the mythology. But let's talk about the music. The interesting thing about these works is that all of them are in minor keys. All of them end in minor keys, but that doesn't in any way restrict the range of emotion that they contain. One of the most wonderful things about this music is Mendelssohn's ability to write music that's witty, that's full of sparkle and grace, and still stay in minor keys. Now, some would say, well, he's avoiding the fact that minor keys are supposed to be sad and miserable and depressing and tragic. Well, they can be, but they can also be witty and humorous and sly and insinuating and full of a kind of mocking glee. And there's an aspect of Mendelssohn's writing that really captures those qualities. I mean, the fairy music in A Midsummer Night's Dream is also in a minor key. It's enchantment. It's magical. So there's a lot to exploring what music can do that Mendelssohn does, and he's usually not given credit for it. And these works in particular are neglected because he was so young when he wrote them. I mean, they do say, okay, well, he was 18 when he wrote A Midsummer Night's Dream, or he wrote the octet, you know, at least he was drinking age, you know, or he could vote or whatever. But these are earlier than that, and you'd never know it. You truly never know it. I just want to play you the finale of the second piano quartet, just a snippet of it. First of all, because I use it as my ringtone currently on my phone, and I think it's absolutely fabulous, because people hear it and they'll go, oh, wait a minute, what's that? Nobody knows what it is. Everybody thinks they might have heard it somewhere. It has that kind of quality to it. And it really encapsulates, I think, that sense of minor key used for humorous or witty or you know, mischievous purposes that I think is particularly wonderful. And I think it's particularly great that he dedicated this to Selter, who was, by everyone's consideration, a very conservative, sort of curmudgeonly type. So just listen to this for about 30 seconds. get the idea. Isn't that just terrific? I mean, you can't see it, but it actually had my cat dancing here. So you know that that's serious because she's very, very discerning in her choice of music. There's something about that music that gets under your skin. You can't forget it. It's wonderful stuff. And all three piano quartets are great, and all three piano quartets are fantastically well performed on these two Naxos CDs. And you owe it to yourself to start exploring Mendelssohn beyond the Italian Symphony and A Midsummer Night's Dream and all that stuff. He had so much to give as a composer, and these are magnificent, magnificent works. So keep on listening, folks. And wait a moment here. Hold it. Let's just go this way. There we go. Wasn't that terrific? Yes, of course it was. You see? There you have it. You have the cat's stamp of approval. Keep on listening, folks. Thank you and take care.